100, I score 90. It's also one grade 1, but yours is bigger than mine. So if we calculate all the scores obtained in the individual subjects and then come up with the best of 6, most likely the best score will be 600, right? So if we put the scores together and you obtain, let's say, 459 and I obtain 458, it means you deserve to go to the school, even though we may have the same grades, like grade 6, grade 6, but the scores are what? Different. So that was the reason why this computerization came about, to bring some transparency and then also at least bring some meritocracy in the system.
But the reason why reporting CSSPS was because many headmasters have become corrupt. It was a gold mine, gold season for admissions, and we wanted to end that system and bring in a much more meritorious system, much more equitable system that all citizens could trust.
17 years after its introduction, corruption continues to erode the integrity of the system.
In
2022, the Fourth Estate went undercover to ascertain whether indeed cash can influence the placement of candidates into top-grade senior high schools. The Ministry of Education set up a resolution center at the Nat Hall complex to resolve complaints regarding the computerized school placement system. When the Fourth Estate visited the center, desperate parents were found negotiating and seeking help on the placement of their wards. In that building was a network of security men and cleaners who served as liaisons between the desperate parent and officials of the CSSPS. The Fourth Estate reporter who went undercover met Eric Agri, a cleaner. He indicated he could help change a placement from Apam Senior High School to Mfantiman Senior High School at a fee.
Big school now, big school, and yeah, better as the amounts I will about still with me and saffron. I found out.
But in less than 24 hours, Eric increased the amount from 7,000 to 7,500 Ghana cedis and would not reduce it.
We said if I say 85. And I look at tea and that tea, my meaning. And oh, there be mommy tea or can say 7 or tea or can say 7 numbers in the Cofas Canaba and then the Mediaba tea or can say 7 numbers in the Cofas Canaba and to me this Canaba. This Canaba.
Eric and Rachel Aite, another member of the syndicate, could not do the placement from Apam Senior High School to Mfantiman because the candidate had enrolled in the school. We presented another candidate who had been placed in Wesley Girls in Accra and wanted a higher grade school, Agri Memorial Zion Senior High School in Cape Coast. Eric demanded 8,500 Ghana cedis for that slot. After demanding and receiving payments, the syndicate changed the placements of the candidate from Accra Girls Wesley to Agri Memorial Zion Senior High School in 2 days. Why are they? He did this with support from another member of the syndicate introduced as Nathaniel. Our investigation later revealed that he is Simon Agri, the brother of Eric Agri. In the course of this investigation, the Fourth Estate heard reports that some parents paid but could not get placement.
In fact, I have a friend, who paid 10,000 cedis for his daughter to get enrollment admission to a certain school. Pay the money, and a year and a half after, you have to enroll the daughter in a private or senior high school.
At the peak of the school selection process, a parent, Maxwell Mundi, wrote a 2-part open letter to Ghana's education minister. He narrated his experience with a man who demanded 3,000 Ghana cedis from him to place his daughter in Methodist Girls Senior High School, Manfe.
When you have a situation where the grade A schools, category A schools, about 55 or so of them, will now have to limit their intake to a single track and not a double track. Yes, government has expanded facilities. Government has invested hugely in expanding facilities. But I'm not sure government has doubled intake in the grade A schools. And that is where there's pressure. So it was expected that as there won't be any more double track, there will be enhanced competition. And that is where, if that competition is not managed well, then it becomes explosive, and then you have corruption tendencies creeping in.
Mimi shall be say on to Nibu or still West Liano pay. Up to now, I feel I'm going to 20K. Miss, what do you catch out? 20K.
Rachel seems to be the most trusted member of the syndicate whom everyone recommends. It was believed that she never failed to place her students once the money she demanded was paid. Throughout her investigations, she was communicating with other members of the syndicate whom she claimed were staff at the Ministry of Education. In the course of her investigation, she constantly received and forwarded messages of available schools and slots to Eric and other frontline team members at the placement center. In one of her meetings, Eric received a list of schools with slots for paid placement.
Sorry, my phone will tell me to me for the Pachimota, me part of me for them. Also, before I said a boy, I just see. Me, I really know that I'm 2 women, and one other car, a bit delayed. But me, I'm telling the truth, a bit delayed because, and then, oh, yeah, not sure. What do you need to cover? Sir, I be so bad, I'm also trying. So I need to go and point by and send me free. So for that one, yeah, I'm sure. Because me, I do go away a crowd. Maybe screaming on me, I'm sure. I'm sending people available. Louis, Kukuwa, Academy, Accra Girls, Accra Senior High, Siawa KCC Girls, Kumasi High, Prempeh College, TI Amidia Senior Kumasi, Yasanto, Bekum Presby Senior High, St. James Abesim, then Infantimine, St. Augustine's, Wesley Girls, Infantimine Girls, the Mine, the Bree Girls, St. Roses. Schools are available. Yes, schools on the big schools in there.
Which is so those 10 things, it's a number, spaces now available.
On the for you penny, maybe 23 males, female 29. So there's a space there, but they are dealing with money.
In some cases, when one was unable to pay, the slots were sold to others who could afford to pay higher. In one instance, we could not get into Wesley Girls High School because we could not afford it. At the placement center, almost every security or staff there knew about Eric's network and could easily direct you to him for paid placement.
Okay. If you know what amount now, or better. Okay. Now, you know what, or you through or yeah, opportunity neighbor na so obeti me aye increase na wala so on ko scanning job ni awon ni obeba do na hono na ono so aye no so wa ba check say no correct in this number okay
It was for this reason that the second reporter from the Fourth Estate was directed to Eric. He wanted a candidate placed in Presbyterian Senior High Technical School to Archbishop Porter Girls Takrade. Eric requested 7,000 Ghana cedis. When we offered 5,000 cedis, he declined and returned the money. He was not taking a pesewa less than 7,000 Ghana cedis.
Because you know something, make I tell you the truth. If I take good, you tell me make I take and make ready. So you hold on. I don't feel keep money because me, if I say make I take unless I sleep. When me try to chop or me Jimmy, me boil it rough. We boil or we sour for those who are if I was say scam, you know there.
Wow.
You know good.
You got some money. It's only 5,000. No, I'm with them on 5,000.
What do you need 5 or mommy have 7? You 230
We requested another placement to be done. The person was originally placed at Presbyterian Senior High School, Ibri, but we requested Wesley Girls Senior High School. Eric demanded 11,000 Ghana cedis and took the money. Eric.
My friend said, Wesley, your mama is 2, but you penalty 110 last.
You're ready. 110. I asked him into Wesley, no?
You call them Mama Dampo, no, I'm on the person on their phone, so be to me.
Interesting.
11,000. When the second placement delayed and we pestered Eric, he finally led us to Rachel.
School in Pacho, open fund mine. In fact, can you please tell me where you can get Mariana? Because you tell 11,000 for Wesley Girls. 11,000 for Wesley Girls. Come on, what do you Wesley buy? That was me and you. And I will go and let you know.
One day, you know what that's nothing one day.
Oh, Daddy, when I'm here for Apostle. You know. You tell me how we are analyze it, but who said we want debut. In next year, Pasando, you know, come in yet you. Oh, me yet you move. You can't born a boy to me the media that you so. Me yet you. I'm not just coming forward here, but send my attitude. Send cram my attitude if it's asked how you. Eh? Let's start it with me, not 8,000 a damn phone. So standing in our ship. Ade.
Yes.
Patriana.
Yeah.
Hey, Radi Yesu. And I want to send him evidence. Would you, Mati? Sir, Mati, thank you. They eventually placed the candidate in Infantiman, a Category A school. With 8,500 cedis, The CSSPS was undermined as placements was changed from Accra Wesley Girls to Agri Memorial Zion School, Cape Coast, and with 11,000 Ghana cedis, placements was changed from Presbyterian Senior High Technical School, Ebri, to Infantiman Girls Senior High School. The most sought-after Category A schools such as Wesley Girls at the time of our investigation were going for as high as 20,000 Ghana cedis.
If we are resorting to use the aggregates instead of the raw scores, then to me it makes no sense to have a computerized system. It should be given back to the heads of SHS. But if we are to use the raw scores, I think that is the best policy. And the system should be, of course, enhanced through live placement, instant delivery of results. I mean, it's not the best, but I think that people should come up with ideas of how it can improve the system instead of condemning it, because even in a state, it's still the best public admission system.
Well, the Fourth Estate's Manasseh Azuri Winnie has been giving the following update.
So far, 8 people have been arrested in connection with this investigation. 2 other people have been named who are on the run. I can confirm that the police have charged these 8 suspects and they are before court. And the police have also taken whatever evidence they need from us. And we hope that as time goes on, they may be able to reach out to beyond these 8, and then get to whoever served as a link between these cleaners and other intermediaries, and also the Ghana Education Service Director General and the Minister of Education, because only the 2 people could have okayed any placement that was made into a Category A school. And so they should be able to know who brought what name to them for approval.
Well, we'll hear from the Education Minister shortly. Right now, though, let's speak to Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, Dr. Peter Anti. Thank you for your time here on The Pulse. So, looking at some of the shocking revelations, what's the way forward for you, and how do you feel that we can put an end to this?
Good afternoon. I think that the way forward is one for us to acknowledge the fact that this problem is multifaceted, it is complex and complicated, and therefore, if we really want to address it, we need to tackle it from different fronts. I appreciate the fact that the former Director General of Education is calling for called for investigation, and we would want to know the extent to which that investigation was carried out. And if there are reports, those reports should be made available to all of us so that we will appreciate that. Again, it also means that we need to overhaul the system. I mean, the whole school placement system needs to overhaul, because it's been in place for over, it was implemented in 2005. We are now in 2023, so it's been in place for over 15 years. And I am not aware of any comprehensive evaluation that have been done in respect to this policy in terms of its operationalizations. Of course, if you read literature on school placement, you would see this issue being mentioned by various writers and researchers as one of the challenges facing the system. And therefore, with this documentary evidence, we need to overhaul the system and put in place checking mechanisms that will allow us to always monitor what is going on within this particular system. Because you see, the objective of this system was to improve upon the manual system. So if you read the document, the policy document, you see that it was to create transparency, fairness, and quick delivery of services to parents or students who apply to various secondary schools. So the transparency and the fairness bit of it and the equity bit of it have all been defeated. Now people need to pay before they can get what kind of whatever school that they want, whether they deserve it or they don't deserve it. So
the objective has been defeated, and therefore we need to overhaul the system. The next thing we have to do, which is on a more long-term basis, is to adopt this policy that was brought by President Kufuor, the school model system. You see, one of the challenges that we are having is that the discrepancies between the schools in terms of our facilities is so wide that every parent wants the world to experience some kind of secondary education that will enable the child access at least one good quality secondary education. And in doing that, some of these parents who have the financial resources are ready to pay whatever amount. So we need to go back and make sure that at least in every district, we have at least one secondary school that has got all the resources that students need, so that at least we'll be able to create some of the precepts in some of the districts. We create some of the infantile girls, infantile PIM, Wesley girls in all the districts. If we do that, that pressure on the category A schools that have become something like a cash cow for these people would reduce substantially. So these are basically the issues that I would want us to look at. And even we also have to look at our own attitude as a society, that we are fueling this. If you are willing to pay, it means you're also causing, you are part of the problem. So our desire to get good schools for us should also be looked at. Do we have to bribe authorities? Do we have to pay money to secure placement for our horse? I want to say no. So let's look at all these things, and probably we'll be able to minimize this challenge that has faced the system. But we need to overhaul the system. It's been it's been around for more than 15 years, and we need to overhaul it and put in certain mechanisms. In this time and age, there are a lot of ICT technological things that can be put in place to ensure that the system is robust enough not to be manipulated by others.
So which system do you want in place?
Please,
so which system are you calling for then?
No, I'm talking about we have to get an advanced technological system that would enable us, the authorities see those who go into the system, those who do the placement, those who are trying to take advantage of the placement and all those things. That is what I'm talking about. The system that we are operating now has proved that it's not feasible and people are going around it. So let's maybe open up and get more advanced technology that will be so robust that when we are placing students on merit, we are doing solely that. And also, let's also check the background of those we are employing to work on these things, so that at least those who've got certain level of integrity and honesty should be allowed to work in there. And again, we have to get in-house mechanisms to monitor this this process.
Dr. Pitanti, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. Well, Minister for Education, Dr. Yaosey Ejidum, says persons found wanting in the expose will be dealt with, as he promises to work with the relevant security agencies.
The church, Presbyterian Church, how do I tell the moderator that the school that you funded and continue to fund and provide resources, if you want 5 or 10 students to go there, I won't allow you. So it's a system that we came to inherit. If, unfortunately, people are using dubious means to get access to something that has been set aside to these key supporters of education in the country, it has to be stopped. And that's why I embrace the documentary that has been done. As soon as we know the content, we'll respond appropriately, and we'll work with the security agencies to ensure that this year's placement will be flawless, and that nobody will be able to take advantage of something so sacred as free senior high school and giving opportunity to everyone to be in. I'm so happy, though, that something has been done, and we are going to embrace it and look at plug any loopholes that's out there. The protocol from the senior high school headmasters, nobody approves it. They just upload it. So if the high school headmaster has 50 people on protocol, they just upload it, and the technical person has to just say approved. You don't vet it. So the idea that you sit there and you are determining, no. You see, what happens with placement in all schools for that matter, and category A schools for that matter, is that 30% of all the placement is set aside for students who went to public junior high schools, a proxy for disadvantaged. So until now, until free senior high school, if you go to a school like Wesley Girls, only about 5 or 10% at most will have gone to public schools. This new system allows a minimum of 30% to come from those who have an equity intervention, so that they too can have access to schools that they will never have dreamt of going.
Meanwhile, Parliament is admonishing the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate the issue.
The Director General and the Minister are the two persons who have access, unfettered access, as far as the placement system is concerned, and particularly so to do with grade A and grade B schools. So if we have seen that placements are being sold and auctioned for persons to get the awards into grade A and grade B schools, you cannot tell me that the minister can feign innocent. If he knows that he hasn't done that, he's done no wrong, then he should be the one eager. He should have been championing the call for an investigation to fish out those who are doing it so that he can exonerate himself. Barring that, and given the liturgical attitude of security agencies towards investigating this matter, it seems to suggest that it is an institutionalized cabal that is at work. And perhaps there are many tentacles that the octopus has. So my suggestion would be that at this point, we ought to be looking at the Office of the Special Prosecutor or the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice to look into this matter. The disinterest of the security agencies is very telling. And the fact that, quote unquote, this has been known to be happening, and yet calls for an investigation have not been championed aggressively, particularly by the ministry, leaves a lot to be desired.
The immediate past director of GES, Professor Kweku Opoku-Awankwa, names those who should be held responsible for fraud in the system.
If there's fraud in the matter, then myself as Director General and the Minister should take the responsibility. I fully accept that and I fully agree. But that is also the reason why I knew that I'm part of it. I took measures to ensure that the issues relating to corruption and the place on the payment of monies and things like that have been dealt with. And I wrote to the CID and then the BNI.
Well, let's shift our attention now. The gold for oil deal is working very well. That's the controversial statement from the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Alderson, who is justifying the policy measure in the face of rising fuel prices. The gold for oil deal was introduced by government late last year owing to Ghana's depleting foreign reserves. Government explains that the decision will also reduce increased demand for the US dollar while pushing the prices of fuel at the pumps down. However, after months of running the policy measure, the effects at the pump have been minimal. Governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Alderson, revealed today that close to 100 million US dollars has been spent on the policy so far, which in his view has worked or is working very well.
To build reserves, to augment our reserves with the purchases of gold. That's how all of this started. And since the beginning of the program, we have bought 181,435.25 ounces, valued at around 348 million US dollars. This is for reserves, gold for reserves. Now, gold for oil, so far we've purchased 50,931, just about 100 million. In fact, the exact number is 96.8 million US dollars. But there's enough gold, right? There's enough gold. I'm aware that PMMC says that there is enough gold that they can buy to support the gold for oil deal. And basically, for me, the issue is about, if you have a government-to-government arrangement, which would allow you to buy refined oil at a much cheaper price than the BDCs will do, then we are helping the government, bring in refined oil at a cheaper price, which hopefully would eventually feed in to lower prices at the pump. So that's the impact of the Gold for Oil program on prices at the pump. At the same time, the BDCs who would have supplied that portion of gold would no more be in the market looking for foreign exchange to go and buy, right? To go and buy the oil. So you expect that the pressure or the demand pressure coming from that segment of the market also would be sort of reduced and indirectly help to take pressure off of the currency. So these are really the two issues concerning that program, helping to take pressure off the Ghanaian cedi and then at the same time using the government-to-government arrangement to bring prices down at the pump. And so far, it seems to be working well. We can arrange for our Director of Financial Markets to give you the details of how all of this is working.
Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison. Well, in spite of these assurances, the reality on the ground is pointing to a different situation as the Institute for Energy Security is projecting a surge in fuel prices by some 7 to 13% from the 1st of February 2023. Well, so let's give you a breakdown of some of the factors IES is pointing to. The IES is first of all talking about the world oil market, the fact that the international crude oil benchmark Brent is increasing and it's increased about 86.14 in terms of the US dollars per barrel on average terms from a previous arrangement rate of 81.72 per barrel. And that's representing some 5.41% increment in the average price over the last 2 weeks. There's also the concern about the world fuel market, the fact that the global standard and poor platforms, they are pointing to an average pricing window of January, which is showing an increase for all major finished petroleum products. The price of gasoline and gas oil increased by approximately 14% and 7.57% respectively. Beyond that as well, some more factors are being pointed to by that projection that we're seeing from IES. They're talking about, for instance, what's happening on the local market as well in terms of our forex. So data from IES Economic Desk on the domestic foreign exchange over the last 2 weeks shows that the Ghana cedi has lost some 10.3% of its value against the US dollar, closing the window at some 12 cedis 50 pesos to the US dollar from the previous rate of 11 cedis 30 pesos. So these are some of the reasons for which IES is predicting that we may be seeing a surge in fuel prices at the pumps in the coming days. Well, let's expand the conversation and talk about how the gold for oil is impacting all of this. Joining us via Zoom, Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary for COPEC. And we also have Yakubu Adam, who's a Research and Policy Analyst for the Institute for Energy Security. Yakubu, since, of course, the details we're dealing with on the screens a couple of minutes ago comes from IES, just explain that to us. Have you been able to put a peg to it now in terms of the actual increments that we are able to, or we may see at the pumps in the next few hours?
Yes, so thank you very much for having me and good afternoon to your listeners. So if you look at currently at the pumps, the petrol, for instance, buys for some 13 cedis, 58 pesos per liter, whereas diesel buys for 15 cedis, 36 pesos per liter, and LPG does some 12 cedis, 69 pesos per kg. And putting together the factors you have named, the international prices of petroleum products as well as the depreciation of the cedi, we are expecting that pricing should do some 7 and 13 pesos, 7 and 13% increment over the next 2 weeks in February. So when you do the computation, you would have petrol coming to some 15 cedis, diesel doing 16 cedis, 73 pesos, and LPG doing some 13 cedis, 98 pesos, respectively, over the next 2 weeks in February.
There's a question as to why that's not, the gold for oil deal, as the BOG governor is alluding to, is not having that impact on the market. In his view, he feels it's working well, by the way, but we're not seeing that effect at the pumps.
Yes, because why we are not seeing the effect with the gold for oil policy is that the quantum of petroleum products that was brought in the first attempt by government was about 41,000 metric tons of diesel. And that is just about 25% of our consumption per month. So you would realize that if you have just 25% being brought into the country, is that able to influence prices when we do some 160,000 metric tons monthly? So if you do the numbers, you realize it was just a week's consumption. And so the market will eventually swallow it. So that is why we have called on government to make available the policy document so that we speak to details of the policy. Then we are able to tell how much government brings in at the end of every month. Because when you do the 41,000 metric tons at the price government quoted, $40 million, you realize the government bought it for a premium compared to what the market was doing at the time.
Yakubu, just hold on for us, because the Chamber for Petroleum Consumers as well, they are equally concerned about the situation. I want to bring in Duncan Amwa, who's joining us via phone. And Duncan Amwa, you just heard from the Central Bank Governor. Dr. Addison says the gold for oil deal is working, but you're raising concerns about how it's not reflecting at the pumps. What do you feel is accounting for this?
Well, Bliss, I do think that genuinely Ghana is stuck with a couple of problems that we would need to find solutions to those challenges. Gold for oil, unfortunately, might not be the solution that you and I would need at this point, as far as the persistent increases in fuel prices week in, week out is concerned. One of the major things I heard Yakubu talk about is to do with the local currencies performance over the past 2-week window. So whilst we were busy clapping for 41,000 metric tons brought in, you also had the city doing its own thing, and then international benchmarks were also inching up. And so the overall effect is that we have sold the 41,000 metric tons to the market already. You ask whether we recorded even any slight or marginal reductions in pump prices. The answer will be a no. We have monitored the pumps day in, day out. Not a single of the OMCs who probably got the gold for oil cargo did any price adjustment downward. And so one will be wondering exactly what are we seeking to do? Are we just creating an importation space now for some people to say that we brought in oil and that we've exchanged Ghana's gold for that oil, and that we've been able to supply to the market, whereas you and I, the consumers, would not get any benefit thereon. It just becomes quite moot to continue to hinge our hopes on the gold for oil program, especially in view of the fact that 41,000 metric tons could not do anything to the market, and that we still seeing prices rather inching upwards. LPG is going to go by as much as 22-23%. Petrol diesel is still going to go up by Wednesday. And so you end up wondering, why would we now expose the Bank of Ghana to pre-finance the importation of fuel trading, which could also lead to, losses eventually that may become public debt. We need to find solutions to probably the currency situation, and also get BOS to be repositioned such that when international benchmarks decline, we can have BOS stock up, awaiting the other time when the price curve is also pointing upward. Then BOS could also stimulate the market. But as it stands, it looks as though we are banking too much of our hopes on gold for oil, whose first consignment clearly has not been able to stimulate the market downwards as was expected.
So now I want us to explore the solutions. Let me start off with you, Yakubu. Where do we, of course, approach this issue from in terms of the remedial measures? Because the concern of the average Ghanaian is, let's try and work out the reduction in prices at the pumps. That's all we care about.
That, like my brother mentioned, Duncan, that at times the international prices do come down, but the local forex displaces the marginal decrement. So we were expecting that government would rather consider revamping of toll. We have made these calls over and over again. The government also looks elsewhere. And also, the price build-up, there are some taxes in it. So government should clearly look at the tax elements and see what government can do in the short term to mitigate some of the challenges that consumers are likely to face with the price increments.
So beyond that as well, there's the liquidity challenge that is facing many of the bulk oil distributors. Is that also coming into the picture now, looking at what's happening to the fuel at the pumps?
Yeah, so when you look at the liquidity challenges, we know how much we need for the petroleum products at the end of the month. So the Bank of Ghana could work with the BDCs to get a reserve of the total amount of forex they receive at the end of every month, to allocate it so that it's not so much exposed to some of these price hikes we see. But to wait for it to be at the time the importation is being done, then you have the BDCs running all over the place, chasing the currency. That, I think, is one of the issues that the Bank of Ghana really needs to look at, because we know how much we need for the petroleum products at the end of every month. So we can readily make that available as a buffer so that they don't have to be on the market like any other person to chase the money.
And the concern of the average consumer as to how far this new projection will be taking us. What do you project on the market, and how long are we to cope with this new price range?
Yeah, so for now, for the next 2 weeks, this is what we are expecting. But like we stated, the policy document on the gold for oil is not available, readily available. So until government policy thinks otherwise, for now, consumers will have to bear with the 7 to 13% projections we are seeing in the market in the next 2 weeks.
Well, Yakubu Adams, thank you for joining us. And let me wrap up with Duncan. Duncan, your projections going forward, and perhaps what do we need to do at the policy level as well, just to change this narrative?
You see, I started by indicating we do have clear challenges as a country. One of the biggest challenges we've had to do with the local currency and how to stabilize it. If government is able to assess 200,000 ounces of gold every month for gold for oil program, we do think that 200,000 ounces of gold each month will be a very good store of value to back the currency. Once your currency is good, you would not even need to have Bank of Ghana now give money to PMMC to buy gold from the local mines, give it to an intermediary to now pay a certain oil trader to bring to boss to give to go. Oh, it's quite complicated in there. And the moment any of these stages or layers that the gold for oil we've created become inefficient, it's just going to lead to public debt. And so we think that Bank of Ghana, for the 100 million that it could use to bring gold for oil, use that to back the local currency, use the gold as a good store of value. Give it to JP Morgan if you may. I'm sure they would advance to you as much dollars as you want because they have the physical gold that they can hold in trust. And that way, you probably will be able to hold your currency quite stable, such that the kind of prices that we are likely to see from when they could have been averted. Gold for oil may be good, but not good or useful to Ghanaians at this point when all we are asking for is to get fuel prices stabilized for people to be able to plan their lives.
Well, Duncan Amwa, we're grateful that you've been able to join us here on The Pulse. Well, the dust is yet to settle on government's domestic debt exchange program as individual bondholders have their fingers crossed that they will be completely exempt from the policy measure, which is being criticized as having the potential of wiping out the investment of Ghana's middle-class population. After a series of protests asking government to exempt individual bondholders, the Finance Ministry commissioned a technical committee to explore alternatives that will enable government exclude individual bondholders while maintaining that target of 80% success rate of the domestic debt exchange program. With just a few hours to that deadline, individual bondholders alleged that the government, through the finance minister, has promised that he will exempt individual bondholders. Let's listen to lawyer Martin Gable.
Friday was a big breakthrough, very massive. But you know, naturally, it had gone into the weekend, people were tired, and so there wasn't enough time to come and do a lot of radio and TV announcements of it. Okay. It also ties. Because there's still on the table the invitation, okay, the domestic debt exchange program. Because it's still on the table, naturally it is the case that he would still say that, oh, if you want to join, come and join. Okay. And of course, knowing the position he's taking, in his heart, he would have wished that we all come on board. So it's to be expected that as long as he hasn't closed the January 31st deadline, he would say he would not be willing to use the word you are exempted. No, because he wishes that we all join. Mm-hmm. But for all the reasons we've canvassed so far, showing that, look, these coupons are salaries to us. That's what we use in paying all our bills, etc. All the arguments we've made over the period, you see that we are unable to join. Mm-hmm. So he still made that invitation several times, but we were very clear that respectfully, the promise that government will honor the existing bonds was sufficient for us. We want to hold on to what we have. Yes, you see, that's it.
But when is this promise taking effect, did he say? Let's start with the honoring of the coupons and principles as they fall due. When did he say when exactly that promise will take effect? Do we know?
Okay, so this is the way I understand it. It means that immediately, I know next month, there's going to be some about 6 billion, about, let's just say, a little over a huge chunk of it
Okay.
will be due next month, right? Yes, several billions. Let's put it that way. I don't have the exact figure here. Will be due next month. So it means that he's going to honor. Yes. So it's immediate. It means that if today any is due, you know, when you look on the debt exchange, the program, there's a table showing what is due at what. Yeah, so all those, as they fall due, government will honor.
Okay, but it's surprising that we have not heard from government just yet in terms of a communication of this, because I've seen that committee meeting and, of course, the outcome of your meetings, the technical committee meetings, signed by Mr. Arkest and, of course, Senior Hosi on one side. But we are yet to get an official communication from government on this. Do we have any indication as to when exactly that will come? Because we've seen Ghana Association of Bankers and Ministry of Finance, there's a joint statement communicating the agreement on this. We've seen Ghana Insurers Association and also the GSIA and this. When are we expecting an official communication from government? Do we have any indication?
Yes, so we are still talking to the minister.
Okay.
We are still talking to him, trying to see how soon that can be done.
Well, in what appears to be a sharp departure from that promise, the Office of the Finance Minister is making statements which suggest that a total exemption may no longer be the case. Well, the Finance Minister has put that on social media, indicating that the individual bondholders remain invited. At this point, I want to bring Dr. Michael Adongo, a development economist, who is joining us via Zoom. Thank you, Doc, for your time. So that the clock is ticking. Obviously, here we are, and the individual bondholders want a total exemption. Many say that given what government has secured with the banking sector and the securities and insurers industry, we're well on course to securing an IMF deal without the individual bondholders. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, thank you for having me. We wouldn't say that it is enough to secure an IMF deal. We will not say that it has more or less proven that Ghana has some sustainable debt trajectory. All it could prove is that given the existing context and the fact that we are having litigations all over, pointing to a fact that the Minister of Finance hasn't got the mandate and legitimacy to secure comprehensive participation in the debt exchange program. The IMF may look at these variables and then say, given what is at stake, should give Ghana a reprieve and then maybe take the process forward. But it is in no way indicative that Ghana can achieve some sustainable debt trajectory without the participation of all the bondholders or all the categories of creditors in the domestic front that government included in the debt exchange program. So it's an issue of there is no other option rather than we have reached a point where we think we have some success. So if you ask me, I think that government has been cavalier with the approach to which is handling this debt exchange program, has adopted game theoretic approach, half-truths, misinformation, and that has not led to some confidence in the whole process. As a result, the exchange market and all the other indicators are suffering, and many are beginning to see that government hasn't got the ability and the mandate to pursue a comprehensive debt exchange program. So as it is now, it is about what the IMF is willing to accept, not an issue of we getting to a point where we say, yes, with this, Ghana can recover.
Well, the finance minister is yet to make that pronouncement. What's your expectation of the minister?
I expect the finance minister to announce that it is proceeding with the debt exchange program with or without the participation of the individual bondholders, but I still expect it to extend to them an olive branch and an opportunity for them to join in. Given how the finance minister has been behaving, I expect that the finance minister will try to threaten them
and tell them that if they don't participate in the program, the likelihood of they suffering significant loss of value in their holdings is high, and it may lead to some forms of defaults and other forms of non-compliance with the agreements that the individual bondholders are going to suffer. So, yes, it is going to announce that it is going to announce that it has a way forward, but I don't think that it will be enough for us to secure debt sustainability. It may just be enough for the IMF to be willing to look at it and then maybe suggest alternatives to us. But as it stands now, I don't think the Minister of Finance has many options on his table. The announcement is going to make is one of failure. He may try to present it as some success, but largely he has not been able to convince these individual bondholders to participate in the debt exchange program because of the take it or leave it approach that he has been using, and has not adopted an approach where the individual bondholders had an option to maybe engage government and reach an amicable solution. So it has all the handwritings of the authoritative approaches the Minister of Finance has used, rather than maybe people not willing to sacrifice for this country.
Okay, but for the individual bondholders, what options are available to them now? Many of them looking for return on their investments. Do they still have a window, given what's happening in terms of our domestic debt exchange program?
Yes, I think that they have a choice. That's what the minister has been trying to do all along, to divide their front. So I think the minister will still try to do that, leave the window open for those who want to maybe jump in at the last minute. The minister may try to paint some dire consequences for non-participation, and those that may flinch will jump in. But as it stands now, I don't think that the minister can do anything. The other alternative is that, yes, if we don't succeed with the debt exchange program, we're going to have serious distortions in our market, serious distortions in the banking sector, and the continued decline in the value of the cedi will also mean that everyone who holds bond in CDs is going to also suffer that. So it's a choice for individual bondholders. It's a rock and a hard place. Do we hold out and see what happens, or we participate in the debt exchange program?
Going forward, what projections are you having about, looking at the success rate of the domestic exchange program and its likely impact on the IMF austerity plan that we have coming up? Of course, government is targeting the first quarter of this year. Are we still on course?
Yes, we have signals that the discourse around the IMF and other lenders is for them to seek out every possible means to help Ghana. They desire to help Ghana come out of this in the international community is high, and that is because Ghana remains one of the few examples of a democracy. And if Ghana fails, you have no case to make concerning democracy delivering good governance and also economic development for people. So people see Ghana's failure as the failure of the democracy, the failure of the democratic experiment, and they are doing all they can to ensure that Ghana succeeds. So I would say that, yes, we may not be able to succeed in the domestic debt exchange program, but we may get some approval or some kind of assistance from the IMF, because the desire and the commitment to get Ghana to succeed is very high. That is the only reason why Ghana has a chance with the IMF. But as it stands now, had it been any other country with maybe a deplorable human rights record, a pariah nation, you would have expected that they would go a long way. But the desire to just have Ghana succeed is so high, and I'm counting on that to see Ghana through. Having said that, I think that government also has to demonstrate a desire and a commitment to cut down its expenditure and implement programs based on its budgets. I think if we pursue that path, we should be able to win the confidence of people and get people to be willing to sacrifice a little more for this country. As it stands now, nobody wants to lift a finger, nobody wants to use a cedi, because the other side of Ghana is living as if nothing has happened. and where the rest of us live, which is the ordinary economy, we suffer and we sacrifice every day. And coming to ask us to sacrifice a little more, whilst you do virtually nothing to support our recovery, it's not something you can sell to an individual bondholder.
The next phase of this will be the external debt exchange. Do you feel that may be difficult as compared to what's happened here within the market itself?
If you are the Minister of Finance, that is a place you don't want to go because it has implications. You may not be able to return to the capital markets after you do your external debt restructuring. It may take a very long time before people start listening to any offer you make. So, yes, it is a necessary evil, but the fallout from that is not going to be something easy. So that is why government has been dragging its feet, hoping that it can find other alternatives and not try to restructure external debt, especially those from the Eurobond markets. But as we stand now, we do not have alternatives. The failure in the domestic debt exchange program means that we have to increasingly rely on a wider net of external creditors to be able to achieve some form of debt sustainability. So I expect the government to cast its net deep and wide and try to catch as many debt creditors as possible. I'm seeing a situation where government may want to engage the Bretton Woods institutions and other multinationals for some form of debt relief or extended debt suspension on some, and then maybe try to negotiate for restructuring of others. I think that if we use those combinations of options, at the end of the day, we should be able to secure some form of program. But it is going to come on the back of you are taking this, you are going, and you're going to be generating revenue. You cannot come back to this market anytime soon. And I believe that should be something that everyone in government should have gotten used to by now.
Right. Dr. Michael Adongo, we're grateful for your time here on The Pulse. You're watching The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. Well, in order to save the economy through the reduction of electricity demand and to prevent additional generation capacity with its associated cost, Parliament has passed 19 laws to regulate the markets for electrical appliances and renewable energy products. The Energy Commission, which has the mandate to implement the laws, says it is up to the task to ensure the judicious use of energy resources in Ghana. Extracts from a statement released by the Commission to that effect is on your screens right now, pointing to the fact that the Commission was established by an Act of Parliament, the Energy Commission Act 1997, to ensure the judicious use of energy resources in Ghana. The Energy Commission wishes to inform the general public that per its mandate and Article 5, that's Act 541, it has caused Parliament to pass 19 laws to regulate the market for electrical appliances and renewable energy products. The purpose of the regulation then comes and it would include the following factors. First of all, to prevent Ghana from becoming a desirable destination for both new but substandard and used appliances. There's also the point that it will save the economy by reducing electricity demand, which necessitates additional generational capacity and other factors that you can see on the screens there. Well, we've been joined by Assistant Manager Energy Efficiency Regulation, Hubert and so Zan from the Energy Commission. Thank you, sir, for your time. What are exactly the challenges with regulating the effective use of energy resources that has necessitated this enactment of these laws?
Much and good evening to your cherished viewers. As rightly mentioned, the Energy Commission set up by an Act of Parliament, Act 541, is to be able to carry out its mandate of making sure that the resources and judicious use of energy is rightly so. Over the years, we started in 2005 with standards and labeling on electrical appliances, but specifically looking at the air conditioners, which were being imported into the country. Fast forward, we added another appliance, which was the household refrigerators in 2009. You will agree with me that over the years, technology has improved in terms of efficiency. And so we have set to Parliament to review these regulations. And in addition to that, we have expanded the scope to include about roughly 17 more appliances to have a total of 19. It is important to mention that these are the first 19 that have come out. We have 2 more regulations that are also coming out prohibiting the importation of or manufacture of incandescent lamps, which are very high consuming lamps, and also reviewing the regulation for refrigerators. So basically, this idea is to be able to transform the appliance market from inefficient substandard appliances to efficient appliances that meet the minimum energy requirements of the country.
But of course, knowing very well that you can't be in every home, every space to check what goes on there, how do you intend to fully implement these regulations?
Right. So the Energy Commission believes in what we call institutional collaboration. And so if you look at the regulation, we have identified enforcement agencies as the Ghana Customs, who are mandated to be at the port of entry where these products come from. We are also working very closely with the Ghana Standards Authority, who will be carrying out tests on these products as option for items that are imported into the country. However, it is important to note that we require some specifications for these products to be able to meet the market. Now, it's important that when it comes to enforcement, we don't just rely on the institutions, but you and I are all part of agencies that can also enforce by identifying products that do not meet the standards. How do you do that? With this law, we are now going to label the products to show that Energy Commission has approved them, they meet the minimum requirements, and so we will make provisions for consumers to be able to make an informed decision before purchase of it. And so reports can be made on products that they have bought, which have slight problems or shown any form of inefficiencies to the Energy Commission to be able to take action.
Are you mindful of economic standing?
Very much. And most importantly, it means that what we should be doing is finding out how we can move away from initial cost of buying appliances to also considering the high running cost of these appliances that are obsolete and in other sense also consuming high energy. Most importantly, when it comes to setting up minimum efficiency standards, it's regardless. You have brand new appliances that are substandard, but also you can have obsolete appliances. And so it is important to be in the middle, to have such regulations to be able to curb the market from possible consumers who will be engaging in purchasing these appliances.
Hubert, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. Now, over 290 million cedis has been released to clear debts of suppliers of foodstuff to the second cycle institutions. According to Chief Executive Officer for the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, Hanan Abdul Wahab, checks have been signed and will be disbursed to suppliers tomorrow. He said although the funds released do not cover the entire debts to suppliers, it will address the challenges of food shortage in the schools. The CEO speaking exclusively to JoyNews.
Government has taken a very bold step in addressing this issue, as we owe most of our suppliers that have supplied to us in the last academic year. But thankfully, government has made some release last week that is, has gone through the various paperwork, and we have actually, our bankers have confirmed, how do you call it, money being in our account. As we speak now this morning, I have signed almost all the checks of the suppliers we owe them in the last academic year, and this is going a long way to speed up the suppliers that are ongoing now. But nevertheless, we have been able to do quite quite well in most of the food items. You know, we have been engaged to supply 18 non-perishable food items, and out of that, we have few ones that are very challenging. But now that funds are available now, and we have specialized suppliers for those commodities. Once payment is done, we would see the swift pickup of those supply of those commodities to the schools.
Good to know that money has been made available.
Yeah.
To what extent does it help to make food available, or does it help to clear off your debt?
Currently, as we speak now, what government has released now is quite significant. He has been able to pay more than 50% of what we owe suppliers, and I think that is good for us. And we think that once we are able to make payments of the amount of money we receive from government, is going a long way to bring stability into the supply chain.
So you say more than 50% of the money.
Yes.
How much are we talking about here?
Government has released around 290 million, which is quite significant. And
cities or dollars?
Cities.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
290 million
has been released, and is going a long way to support the distribution of the food, because like I said, I've signed almost all the checks, and we are going to also issue the checks to the suppliers from tomorrow. I'm sure even from tomorrow when you come here, you will see most of the suppliers here to pick up their checks.
How much do you owe in total?
Currently, as we prior to what government has released, is just a little over 400 million.
Okay.
A little over 400 million, and what government has released, we think is very significant, and we appreciate that support from the Ministry of Finance and the Minister of Finance himself, who has taken it upon himself to make sure that he reduces our burden.
Okay.
And plans are also far advanced in validating the rest of the invoices for payment. There are some items that we have much challenges that has to do with money funds issues, but now that monies have been released, we are going to see a significant improvement in the supplies in the coming days. And I'm sure we'll not wait for you to come here. We'll give you a call so we can give you an update, and I'm sure yourself you can make phone calls to the schools, because we are very optimistic that once we start distributing the checks, suppliers are going to plow back the monies into the suppliers again. Gari, we have been able to do 53.01%. Beans, we have been able to do 54.45%. Peanuts, we have been able to do 41.77%. Millet, we have been able to do 11.16%. So you can see there are some of the items that we are really trailing. But of course, what it means is that those specialized suppliers of these commodities, we owe them so much, and they have gotten to their saturation point, and they need reinforcement. And after tomorrow, I'm sure there is going to be a pickup on this. Then vegetable oil, I'm able to do 44.7%. Palm oil, 51.32%. Margarine, 7.77%. That is not good enough. That is not good enough. And margarine was something that we actually discussed this morning, and we have gotten a new supplier that has some quantities, and we have given him the various quantities and then regions for the company to start the distribution, whilst the traditional suppliers of margarine gets their money from tomorrow. Yeah. Then tomato paste, we have 55.99%. Bread flour, we have 29.15%. So there is more room for improvement in terms of the flour supplies. Then tin milk, which is also on the lower side, we have 8.47%, which we are also hoping that it will pick up. Then we have hot chocolate from the cocoa processing company. We have done 52.62% so far. Sardine, we have done 47.59%. Mackerel, we have done 51.07%. Sugar, we have done 25.95%. It's also one of the challenging commodities. Then soya bean, we have done 28.88%. Then locally processed Tom Brown, we have 65.34%. So these are the percentage of supplies done so far as at last week Wednesday. So we are yet to even update this figure because our suppliers have is ongoing from Thursday, Friday to the weekend and today Monday. So close of day today we would call for reports. I'm sure there will be some improvement. But apart from that, we are relying heavily on these funds that we have received. As soon as we are able to, pay suppliers and it clears on their part, they'll be able to continue supplies and then do more to automatically bring down the tension in the system.
Live to the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi, where the NPP presidential hopeful Alan Jermaine is beginning a tour to convince delegates to select him as the leader into the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. Maxwell Akuba is traveling with him. Joins us now for more. Maxwell, what can you report? Maxwell, where are you now and what's happening?
Currently at the Heroes Park here in Kumasi, the NPP flag bearer, hopeful Alan Jermaine, arrived here in the morning. He's been to the Menchia Palace where he went to officially inform Dan Santehene of his decision to contest the flag bearership of the NPP. After that, he went to the regional head office of the NPP where he had a meeting with the regional executives. Now we are at the Heroes Park. In a moment, he'll be speaking with hundreds of party supporters who are gathered here. But I have a member of the communications team, Yaobuabina Samoa, here with us. He's going to tell us what the outcome of that meeting with the regional executives, was. Welcome to JoyNews.
Thank you.
What was the outcome of that meeting with the regional executives?
Well, two themes appear to be cropping up as we move along. The first is the sense of integrity associated with Alan's character and persona. It keeps coming up from the Menchia Palace right through to party office that this is a man with an unblemished record, and that is a person of integrity. You can depend on him, you can rely on him. So many years of service to the party and to the nation. The second thing that's coming up is his visionary view of development and what he has done competently in government over the years to establish a very strong foundation for entrepreneurial development, diversifying the economy of Ghana. And many individuals are attesting to this. Even within the regional office, you had the executives who had personally participated in 1D1F and were very impressed. You had the executives who were brought up on YEF, which he founded and chaired in 1992, and is still vibrant and alive. And this is a group that brings together businessmen in the party to support the party in the best of times.
But one person who was conspicuously missing from that meeting was the regional chairman Wuntumi, who we know some weeks ago openly and publicly declared his support for the Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia, and then actually tried getting some of the members of parliament, NPP members of parliament, to join him to support Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Yesterday we were informed. Mr. Chiramatin actually spoke to Mr. Wuntumi, and he scheduled this meeting. But unfortunately, he had to travel. So he did send his excuses that he had to travel, but he made sure the meeting happened. It was chaired by his first vice chairman. Yes.
That is the Alan Chamantin campaign not concerned that this is his home region, and the regional chairman for his home region conspicuously missing from his meeting with the regional executives.
We are going to have a vote in an electoral college. The electoral college of the MPP is made up of the elected executives, constituency, regional, and then council of elders, all that. They form about 3% of the group. They will do the initial administrative selection of the people who are coming through. His vote is single amongst all that. So the important thing is that the region engages everybody. The Chematin campaign essentially was not here today to even campaign. We were here to introduce him to his home region, demonstrating that the region sent him to Accra to work, and that thereafter he's had to put in his resignation because he's desirous of running for president whenever the party opens the way forward. So he had to come back to his home region, give an account of what he had been able to do in the government. That's why he went to Otumfuo. He had to tell the region too, because whilst Otumfuo is the overlord of the land, the region owns the political process. So there were 5 other executives who couldn't make it for various reasons. So it doesn't depend on the personality of the chairman alone. We are very confident that, as Otumfuo remarked, and as others have remarked as we go along, the New Patriotic Party is selecting somebody who is going to possibly win power for us to make us break the 8. It is not a process meant to satisfy the internal party. There are many who will come forward. We are hearing as many as 9. But then the people of Ghana, given the current circumstances we are in, need to trust somebody from within the MPP who is capable of turning things around decisively and effectively. What we pick up from the ground is that they don't have too much confidence in the NDC. But if we also don't demonstrate capacity in a real way for somebody who is known in the country, somebody who has been involved in politics in this country, somebody who in 1996 was going to run in the flag bearership race of this party, and since then has consistently campaigned with Nana throughout every hamlet. Somebody whose flagship approach in 2016, 1D1F, helped us to win this election. Alan Chematin is known throughout Ghana, in every hamlet, and therefore, if the delegates select Alan Chematin, arguably they may have an easier, it's not easy, whichever form it is, but they may have an easier marketing approach, convincing the people rather than anybody else.
Before we wrap up, what does the Alan Chamantin campaign team make of that viral video where we saw Chairman Wuntuli, the chairman of his home region, Alan Chamantin's home region, openly endorsing the vice president and asking other MPs to vote?
It is of no consequence. He has a personal view. He was speaking to party electors. He has one vote. Those party electors will be influenced by the views of the people of Ghana. They will be influenced by the responsibility to pick somebody who will actually win as power. Somebody who will prevent us from going to opposition. So if the regional chairman purportedly has a personal view about one of the candidates and is busily supporting that candidate, until we vote, the others who haven't said anything, you can't assume are supporting him just because they haven't said anything. But they also live amongst the people. They hear what the people are saying, and they believe that if their party is to go forward, the best person, already well known in the country, the best person who has delivered.
My colleague Maxwell Agwagwa there with the latest from the Ashanti region will bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. The Attorney General's office says no policeman assaulted JoyNews' Lateef Idrisu. This claim comes the same day An attorney representing the Attorney General had told the court and the Inspector General of Police had been asked to seek an out-of-court settlement with the journalist, Mr. Idrisu, and the multimedia group are in court demanding payment of damages for the assault they visited on the journalist by the policeman. The journalist was in March 2018 beaten up while covering a protest at the police headquarters. He has since been battling various health complications arising, of course, from 2 head injuries from that assault. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has more.
So I feel the pains in my head because that's where they used the butt of the gun to hit, and my rib, and in my right leg, and my chest.
They hit your chest too?
Yeah, they were hitting me all over, so.
These are the areas you feel pain, but generally, how are you feeling?
My neck as well, yeah, because of the slaps, you know.
What has the doctor been telling you?
He was very worried.
Latif continues to suffer as a result of the injuries sustained during that brutal assault. The Attorney General's office, however, says no policeman touched him. Mr. Idrisu dismisses the allegations, insisting he was beaten by many policemen.
How many of these police officers?
A lot of them. There were lots.
Can you put a number to them?
For those guarded in front of the headquarters, there were more than 20. So he pushed me into them. They didn't know what was going on between the two of us. But I don't know, they all started beating me, slapping me here and there. So I shouted and called him, Joel. Joel, he came and I asked him to start filming. He raised his camera and he started doing something. Some of them also pounced on him and pulled him away. So then they pushed me into the main building, and it got crazy.
The Attorney General's office on Monday told the court it had asked the IGP to pursue settlement talks. Lead counsel for Latif Idrisu and the multimedia group, Samson Ladi Anyenini, told the court the previous settlement talks mediated by the National Media Commission did not yield much. Latif then proceeded with his testimony recounting the incident. He's back in the witness box on Tuesday when he'll be cross-examined by the Attorney General's office.
Well, that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. Updates on our stories there. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Thanks for watching.